Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Westerns are known as a rugged genre where you see cowboys, leather-clad men who can punch, shoot, and ride in traditionally masculine roles. That being said, there are some very strong female characters that live in that setting. Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke immediately comes to mind. It's, however, very rare that a TV Western centers around a woman. There was the Annie Oakley series from the 1950s, which was a tale of the famed sharpshooter that starred Gail Davis in the lead role. But the Big Valley stands at the forefront of female-led Westerns. The series chronicled the saga of the Barkley clan, a wealthy family led by a widowed matriarch in Stockton, California. Victoria Barkley stood tall and tough, displaying as much grit as her sons Nick and Heath. And there was no actress better at the time to play Victoria than Barbara Stanwyck. At one point in 1944, this Hollywood legend was the highest paid woman in America. She was beloved by audiences and the entire film industry. She commanded your attention when she was on the silver screen. The Big Valley also featured young Linda Evans, who clearly studied from the master on her way to her famous role on Dynasty. Alongside these beautiful women were the macho icons Lee Majors and Peter Breck, playing Heath and Nick, respectively. This series offered the perfect balance of action and drama, and it's no wonder that it garnered such a devout and diverse fan base. Barbara Stanwyck earned several awards for her work on the show. After the first season, she nabbed an Emmy for actress in a leading role in a dramatic series. She earned nominations the next 2 years, too. In 1967, she was also named America's favorite TV actress. On the set of the show, Barbara Stanwyck and Linda Evans had somewhat of a mentor-apprentice relationship that grew into something closer, more like a family tie. And these two ended up living down the street from each other as time went on. Many years later, when Stanwyck appeared on the TV show Dynasty, Linda Evans still called her former co-star Mom and looked at her that way. Stanwyck had stated at one time that during the first season of The Big Valley, Linda didn't always listen to her, and she would kind of buck her authority, but that by the second season, they had spent so much time together that she did better at listening to advice. Now, Peter Breck was no stranger to the Western. In fact, he had previously starred in Black Saddle, playing a gunfighter turned lawyer. And it's been widely reported that he was able to draw his gun in 16/100ths of a second, making Nick Barkley the fastest draw in television history. There was one cast member that had to leave the show after being drafted by the Army. There was once another Barkley boy early on. His name was Eugene. He was the youngest Barkley, and he only appeared in a handful of episodes. That character was played by Charles Brills. He popped up sporadically through the first season, but then the actor received his draft notice. He was then written off the show, and the reason being that he had gone off to medical school. They only mention his name once again in the show. Singer Lou Rawls made his acting debut on the show. The series was a progressive series and had one of the first black screenwriters in American television history. That was Robert Goodwin. He had broken into the somewhat closed group by writing for Bonanza. And on the Big Valley, he penned a script called Joshua Watson that starred Lou Rawls, who had just recently rocketed up the pop charts with the song Love is a Hurtin' Thing. His debut in this series lends itself to one of the great lines in TV, and that is, Ain't a horse that can't be rode, ain't a man that can't be throwed. The Big Valley kept Lee Majors from starring in the movie Midnight Cowboy. Majors was set to star as Joe Buck in the acclaimed film, but the Big Valley was renewed for another season, and Majors couldn't get out of his contract. Thus, the role was given to Jon Voight. Most people don't realize that Regis Philbin appeared in an episode too. Regis was far more than a talk show host, game show host, and singer. He acted a little bit too. His personality pops off the screen when he appears in the episode The Challenge. The series was known for packing in a bunch of guest stars, from the likes of Richard Dreyfuss and William Shatner to Milton Berle and Cloris Leachman. In every episode where Nick, played by Peter Breck, is a spectator in a court case, he interrupts the court to speak his piece, which always gets him in trouble with the judge who is presiding. In later episodes, this took on a comedic tone, as viewers knew that it was only a matter of time before Nick would voice his displeasure. Throughout the series, Lee Majors was always introduced as Heath in the credits, with no last name. This was because, even though he was accepted as a member of the family, there was always the question of whether he was a true Barkley or not. The lovely Linda Evans, who plays Audra in this show, has a pretty tantalizing pictorial that was done for Playboy magazine in 1971. At the time, she agreed to pose nude for Playboy to help her cash-strapped husband, John Derrick, fund a new film. And the pictures that you see in the magazine were never intended to be shown in a publication. They were intimate shots that her husband took of her, but because they needed the money, she agreed to free them up for the men's magazine. She states that they took those pictures strictly for their enjoyment, that he loved to photograph her, and he took pictures of her almost daily. At one point, they ran out of money and had to come up with a plan to generate some, and Playboy was the highest bidder. She does state that she has no regrets about becoming a Playboy pinup. She feels like that it actually made her in to what she is today. Take a look back at this slightly different Western. It's a great one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.